Sanskrit. After listening to a brilliant lecture by the brilliant man Subramanya Swami, there is not much for me to speak about. On the topic, modern problems and then ancient solutions, I remember a very important historical event which took place when America was founded. When the British refused to accept the demand of the American farmers, their demand was no taxation without representation. War became inevitable. The British had a very well-trained army, well-trained and well-equipped army, and the Americans were only farmers who had old guns which were fit only to hunt the wild animals. And they didn't have an army general, but there was a war council. The war council was in search of an army general. And some people said, here is a farmer who is a good farmer and who can become a good general. They pointed at George Washington and they asked Washington, you lead the army. Washington came, used his brains, struggled very hard, and then in the War of Delaware, he won independence for America. When he became successful, all his soldiers, that is the farmers, started shouting, Washington will be our king. Any other person would have accepted that and he would have become a king. But Washington said, don't become foolish. We fought this war in order to escape the tyranny of the British king. Now you are going to create another monarchy in this country. It is foolish. You must have democracy. And in democracy, who should become the president? Naturally, and saying this, Washington went back to his farm called Vernon, which is near Washington DC. And then afterwards, the War Council sent words to Washington, got him back and then said, you become the first president. And he became the first president. And there was enormous problem in the country, like they had to have their mint, they had to bring a new administration, they had to have a constitution, and they had to have foreign recognition also. And Washington successfully did it. And later on the people said, since Washington did all these things successfully, he should become the life president. Washington again said, don't become foolish. Life president means it leads to dynasty. We should not allow this. I rule here for a particular period and then you choose your new president and I will go back. And after going back to my farm, when the new president requires my services, I will come and serve the country. He went back. And this was the example that America had. Compare it with our first Prime Minister. Now, in our country also we had many examples Chandragupta Maurya on the throne, gave stability to Indian polity, and later on he went back. He went back for renunciation. He did not continue. And then he did not become the king either. Taking the example from Vijayanagara Empire, Vidyaranya made Hakka and Bukka succeed in establishing the Vijayanagara Empire, and when the Vijayanagara Empire was stabilized, he went back to Sringeri and became a sannyasi. And after some years, when he saw that the Vijayanagara Empire was not in good shape, when the Vijayanagara Empire sent words to Vidyaranya that his services were required again, he went back, served there, and then came back to Sringeri and then concentrated on writing books on philosophy. We have our examples, but we don't follow those examples. Now, coming back to this subject, Sanskrit. Now, I am a Kannada writer. I am not a Sanskrit scholar. I don't intend to become one. But why do I need Sanskrit? As a Kannada person, I want to write good Kannada. I want to read good Kannada. Now, where about the vocabulary? About 80% of Kannada vocabulary is from Sanskrit. About 80% of Marathi vocabulary is from Sanskrit. More than 90% of Hindi vocabulary is from Sanskrit. In Hindi, there are two kinds of Hindi which was created or which was recognized by our first Prime Minister. And his love was for Urduized Hindi. And real Hindi is even today Banaras Hindi. Banaras Hindi is real Hindi because it is derived from Sanskrit. Now, around 1967 or 68, I was in Delhi. UGC had made a subcommittee called the Subcommittee for Formation of Technical Words. Technical words in different sciences: physics, chemistry, history, philosophy, biology, and so on and so forth. I was in that committee. Now, we just asked experts from each language, what is the word you use in your language for oxygen? Most of them said Amlajanaka. What is the word you use for hydrogen? Most of them said Jalajanaka, Sarajanaka, Sasarajanaka. If you come to geometry, all the Indian languages use the same words. Algebra, all the Indian languages use the same words. And there we found that the experts from Tamil Nadu said, no, we don't accept these words, we use Tamil words. What are the words you use? They said something which no others understood. The purpose of that committee was to identify the common words which are common to all the Indian languages. The words which were common to all Indian languages were Sanskrit words. The purpose was identify all those words so that in course of time, when Indian language has become the medium of instruction, Indian language has become the medium of sciences, there will be, if we have all these common words, which are of course derived from Sanskrit, it is easy to translate one science book from one Indian language to all other Indian languages. Thereby, there can be intellectual unity in the country. Instead of using Sanskrit, there can be, using English, there can be intellectual unity in the country. Thereby, we can think in our own language. But what is the situation now? Our children are made to think in English, which is not their language. There is the language in which they are taught and they are made to think is a hurdle for their intellectual development. Now that is why Sanskrit is required for us. We don't say, I do not think that I am going to serve Sanskrit. I think that I want to make use of Sanskrit to serve me. Now, earlier in old Bombay Presidency, where part of Karnataka was there, Gujarat was there, whole of Maharashtra was there, Sindh was there. In old Bombay Presidency, Sanskrit was a compulsory subject up to PUC. It was compulsory up to PUC along with their language. A Kannada student in Kannada paper, there would be 150 marks. 100 marks for Kannada, 50 marks for Sanskrit. With the result, their grammar, knowledge of Kannada grammar would improve. If you take Kannada grammar for example, more than 80% of Kannada grammar is Sanskrit. It is Sandhi, it is Samasa, it is Dhatu, it is derivation, it is spelling for example. Today you ask Kannada professors, is it Kanishta or Kanishta? They say, sir, Kanishta. Are you sure? No, sir, it is Kanishta. They are not sure because they don't know the derivation. In the same way, Jeshta or Jeshta, they don't know. Pushti or Pushti, they don't know. Then how can you write good Kannada? It is the same problem with Marathi also. It's the same problem in Hindi also. Because you don't have the basis of Sanskrit. Our language, our vocabulary and our grammar is all derived from Sanskrit. If you don't know at least minimum Sanskrit, you cannot develop your own language. Now, the present day educationists are those who formulate educational policies, don't want either Indian languages or Sanskrit because they are products of English. They want their children to study only English. With the result, Indian languages are completely thrown out. Now, many questions people asked me, what will happen to Kannada literature in future? It's a very difficult question because modern day boys and girls do not know even to read Kannada boards because straight from the beginning they start with ABC and not with A, I, E. Now, how can they read Kannada literature? Who will write in Kannada? Then if you don't write in Kannada, if you don't read in Kannada in Karnataka, what will happen to Kannada culture? What will happen to Indian culture? Apply the same thing to other places also. Telugu, Marathi, Odissi, Gujarati, Hindi, etc. What will happen to Indian culture? See, whatever the language in which we write, you must very clearly understand that we write Indian culture, we write Indian life. I may write in Kannada, but I write Indian life. That is why when my works are translated into other Indian languages, people accept me as one of their writers. How can this Indianness come? This Indianness comes because we have the same culture, we have the same ethos, and we have inherited the same Ramayana, Mahabharata, Kalidasa, Bhavabhuti, etc. Now, if we cannot read them, you can't read them and understand any translation. If you have studied only in English, you have to read even Bhagavad Gita in English. It is absolutely stupid because what a term means, what a word means in Sanskrit is entirely different from what it means in English translation. But in all the Indian languages we use the same Sanskrit words. You read Bhagavad Gita's translation in Kannada or in Marathi or in Gujarati, we use the same words. Only some words and some grammatical structures are different, but the words are the same. Therefore, translation is easy, but not in English. We have in Advaita Nirguna Brahma. English philosophers, there was a philosopher called Bradley. You must have heard the name A.C. Bradley, who has written on Shakespeare, a very famous critic. And that A.C. Bradley's cousin, F.H. Bradley, he had read Advaita Vedanta in translation, but he refused to accept it, that he was influenced by it, because at that time he was in the empire. He used the word absolute. Now, when I was studying in philosophy BA honors, I used to study Advaita Vedanta in English, and I used to read Shankaracharya as absolute. Absolutely stupid. Because Nirakara Brahma means, what Nirakara Brahma means, the word absolute doesn't mean it. Now, what I meant to say is, you are doing a very great service to the country by popularizing Sanskrit. Sanskrit is really not a difficult language. It is as easy as your mother tongue. But there is one important factor here for which I can give a good example from my own family. My wife attended Samskrita Sambhashana Shibira. 2 or 3 Shibiras she attended. And then she started talking in Sanskrit with her friends on telephones. I used to overhear it. But I had studied Sanskrit grammar under a very capable teacher, and I had studied Kalidasa under the same teacher, and I had studied all the 10 Upanishads with Shankar Bhashya under the same teacher. Therefore, I know better Sanskrit grammar than my wife. But I cannot speak with like her even 2 or 3 sentences in Sanskrit. When she speaks in Sanskrit, I point to grammatical mistakes that she commits. But she retorts to me saying, yes, you may be knowing better grammar, but talk like me. Therefore, I appeal to you all, popularize Sanskrit. Don't bother about grammar. Nobody learns grammar. You see, when the child learns the mother tongue, it doesn't bother about grammar. It simply learns the language. So you learn the language Sanskrit, talk in it in your family, talk in it with your friends, and popularize it. Thank you.